Hello everyone, welcome to AJ Programming Solutions. So in today's video we are going to see how to connect our Spring Boot application to the H2 database. So let's create the project first. I am using here STS IDE. So to create the project we can go to the file, then new project, and here we need to select Spring Starter project. Click on the next, and then here you need to provide the details for your project. For example, what will be the project name? So maybe we can give the project name as H2 database demo. Okay, then here we need to provide the group ID. So maybe we can give com.sjprogramming.h2 demo. Okay, and the same we can give as a package here. Okay, now artifact we will keep as h2db demo, and then in the description I will just write demo project for or maybe Spring Boot demo project to connect h2db. Okay, this is the description for our project. Now here we will choose the type as a Maven, and the Java version we will use as a 17. Packaging will be jar and language will be Java. Okay, now if we select all of this, then we need to click on the next, and here we need to choose the required dependencies. Okay, so here we want to create the Spring Boot project and we want to connect it to the H2 database. Okay, and here, like as we are connecting this project to the H2 database, so we need the H2 database dependency. See here in the frequently used tab, you can see the frequently used dependencies. But if you are not able to find that particular dependency here, then you can always go to here in the available and you can search for the dependency. For example, H2 database. Okay, so let's just click on this H2 database. Then we need web dependency and maybe Spring Data JPA dependency. Okay, because we will create some entities to just check if that entities are getting created in our H2 database or not. So that's the reason I am just choosing Spring Data JPA dependency. Okay, so for now we just need Data JPA, H2 database and web dependency. Okay, once you select all the required dependencies, then click on the next, and then click on the finish. Your project will get created here. See, your project is importing. Okay, now once the import is completed, see here the project structure. Now we have first folder created, which is source main Java, and then source main resources. Okay, in the resources, very first we will go to application.properties file. And in the application.properties file, we just have one property, which is spring application name, and the name is h2 database demo. Okay, after that if I go to the pom.xml, you will see that all the dependencies which we have added should be present in our pom.xml file. See here we have added data JPA dependency. Okay, then we have added the web dependency, right? And after that h2 database. This test dependency will be by default in all the Spring Boot projects. Okay, now let's just go to the source main Java folder, and in the source main Java folder we have one Java file. See here, this is our main method. Okay, so this is the main file which we have in our source main Java folder. Okay, so from here we can start the application. Now we want to connect to the H2 database, right? So to connect to the H2 database, we need to provide some properties in our application.properties file. Okay, now which are the properties we have to provide here? Very first we will provide the URL. Okay, after that we need to provide just a minute. Okay, very first we need to provide the URL. Okay, then we have to provide the driver class name, Okay, then we have to provide username, password, and which dialect we are using. Okay, so these are the properties we need to provide in our application.properties file. Okay, so let's just start one by one with all the properties. Very first I will just use URL property. Okay, so URL, and here you will find spring.datasource.url. Okay, so this is the property name. Now what will be the value for this URL? You can write jdbc colon h2 colon mem colon your database name. So I will just write here testdb. Okay, so this is our URL. Now let's provide the driver class name. Okay, so for driver class name I will just use here driver class name. See here, you will get this property spring.datasource.driver-class-name. Okay, now we can use this, and here the driver class will be org.h2.driver. Okay, now first property is URL, second property is driver class name. Okay, after that the third property is username. Okay, so for username you just write here username and you will get the options here. Okay, so spring.datasource.username. So when we connect to the H2 database, we will provide the username as a SA. Okay, then password. Here I will just write password. Okay, and here we need to use, just a minute, maybe I can just write spring.datasource.password. Okay, and here the password we can just give any password. Okay, maybe I can just give here pass. Okay, or maybe pass 123. Any password you can give, and when you will use the H2 console, that time we have to use the same password which we have given in our application.properties file. Okay, so first property is URL, second property is driver class name, third one is the username, and then password. Okay, after that we need to provide we are using which dialect. Okay, so now here I want to use the Hibernate dialect, so I will just provide here that dialect. Okay, so how you can write the property spring.jpa dot this one, the spring.jpa.database, this one, JPA database platform. Okay, and here you need to provide your H2 dialect. So how we will be writing it? org.hibernate.dialect.h2 dialect. Okay, so this is the value for this property. Now we have provided all the properties. One more thing which we need to do is that whenever you try to connect your application to the H2 database, you need to enable the H2 database. Okay, so how you will be enabling it? To enable it, you need to write the property here h2.console. See here, this one, spring.h2.console enabled. And see here, the default value for this property is false, which means this console is by default false. You need to enable it explicitly. Okay, to enable that we will use this property and make it as a true. Okay, so now our H2 console is enabled. By using this console we can write the queries. You can see the database tables in this H2 console. Okay, now if I save this, okay, let me just save this and run this project. Maybe I can just right click here and then run as a Spring Boot app. Okay, now here our database should get connected to the H2 console. See here, our application is started on 8080 port. Okay, now see here, the H2 console is available at H2 dash console. Okay, so now we can just go to our Google Chrome. Okay, now here maybe we can you can just write here your h2 console path. So how you can do that? http colon / localhost localhost colon 8080 / h2 console. Okay, now see here, the h2 console will get open. See, now this is your h2 console window. Okay, now here you need to provide the exact URL which you have provided in your properties file. So go to the properties file, this one, and here what is the URL we have? You have this URL. Okay, so copy this URL, go to your h2 console, paste it here. Then username also we should provide the same as in the application.properties file, which is SA, and the password will be pass123. So let me just copy that, go here and paste. Now you can try to connect it. See here, the h2 console is open now. Okay, now if we create any tables, all those tables will be present here. Okay, now let's go to our application. Okay, and here we will try to create one entity. So let me just create here one entity package. So click on the package and we will give the package name as an entity. Okay, and in this entity package, let's just create a simple class, and I will just give the class name as a student. Okay, this is our student entity, and let's just make it as a entity annotation. And then, as I don't want to create the table by myself, I don't want to create the table, columns, all of the things by myself. Okay, so we will use the Spring Data JPA for that. And if you don't want to create the table by yourself, then you have to go to your application.properties file, and here you need to mention DDL, okay, maybe hibernate.ddl-auto. Okay, so we need to use this property spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl-auto, and here we will mention as a create. Okay, and then let me just use one more property, which is show-sql. Okay, this one, the spring.jpa.show-sql, and let's just make it as a true. Okay, now if I save this, okay, and go to my entity class, here we have created this entity. Now use @table annotation if you want to change the table name. Okay, let's suppose here I want to give the name as a student. This way. Okay, if you want to change the name, you can give any name here, but if you don't provide any name, by default it will be student. Okay, so let me just remove this name and we will keep the table name as a student. Okay, now here I want first field as a private int roll number. Okay, and then private string name of the student, then private maybe double marks. Okay, these are the fields we have. Now, as whenever we create the entity, we should provide the primary key, right? So that's the reason I will just use here @ID annotation, and maybe the generated value I will just keep it as a identity. Okay, now if I save this, okay, and rerun the project, see here, if I rerun the project, in our h2 console the student table should get created. Okay, so let's just run the project. Okay, see here, you will see like very first it is trying to drop the table if the table is present student. Okay, and then it created the table student. Okay, now we can go to our h2 console. If I just try to refresh it, okay, let me just refresh. Okay, and connect. username is SA, and password is pass123. Now see here, the student table got created. Okay, and in the student we have marks, roll number and name. Okay, now let's suppose if I try to insert some values. Okay, let's suppose I will insert here the marks as a 69, roll number as 1, and name we will just keep as a max. Okay, this is my one entry. Okay, then the second entry will be, let's suppose the marks are 89, roll number is 2 and the name is Ram. Okay, so we have inserted 2 entries in our student table. Okay, now here actually there is one problem which I just want to show you. Okay, let's suppose in our student table I have inserted these 2 entries now, right? Now if I restart the project here, let's go and restart the project. See here, what happened? They dropped the table. Okay, and again the table is created. Okay, so why it is dropping the table? Because in my application.properties I have provided here create. Okay, let's suppose even if I provide here update, what will happen whenever we use this in-memory database, that time every time whenever we restart the project, okay, so the tables and all the data in the table will get losted. Okay, so that data will not be persisted. Okay, so that is the problem we have, and to solve that problem what we can do, we can use here, okay, the database file, so that the whenever we restart the application, that data will not be losted, that data will persist there. Okay, so for that what I can do, I can just change this property spring.datasource.url. and how to change this? Just remove this one, or maybe we can just keep it, and here we need to add the file location where you want to persist that data. Okay, so jdbc :h2 : here instead of name what I will be using, file. Okay, and then here you need to provide the path. Okay, so for example, let's just go to my finder here, and here I have created one h2db data folder. See here, this folder is present in users shital folder. Okay, so now I will just go here, okay, and I will just provide the path users/shital/h2db data. This is my folder name, right? If you see here, this is our folder which is h2db data, right? Now in this folder I want to create the file. Okay, and let's just give the file name maybe my database. Okay, this is my file name. Now what will happen? This file will get created in this folder. See here, in this folder we don't have anything for now, but once I restart this project, the file will get created at this location and your data will be persisted there. So even if you restart the application, your data will be there, it will not lost. Okay, so let's just save this and restart the project. Okay, now here the table is created, and now if I go to application.properties file, I need this URL to connect to the h2 console, right? So let's just go to our console and let's refresh it. Here you need to now change the URL, right? Previously it was memory testdb, but now it's my database in the h2db data folder. Okay, now here provide the password pass123 and connect. Now the student table is created. In the student table, let me just add some data. Let's suppose roll number is 1, marks are 68, and the name is let's suppose Reva. And one more field I will add, one more row. Roll number is 2, marks are 89, and name is Ram. and just save it. Okay, now see here, in our student we have 2 entries, right? And if you go to this one h2db folder, see here my database file is created. Okay, now your data will be persisted here. Even if I restart the application, if I go to the STS and restart the application, still this data will be there. This data, which one? This one, the roll number 1 and 2 data will be there. Okay, so go to the STS, okay, and see if the application is restarted successfully. Okay, it's restarted. Now go to your h2 console, refresh it. Okay, here you need to connect again to the database. Okay, so URL is there, password just provide it as pass123 and connect. See here, if I go to the student, okay, and just run, see the data is persisted. Okay, so even if you restart the application, your data will be there. And for that, what changes we did, we just changed one property in our application.properties file, which is spring.datasource.url. Okay, so this way we can connect to our database. So this way we can connect our Spring Boot application to the H2 database. Very simple. You need to provide the URL, then driver class name, username and password. Okay, then which dialect you are using. Okay, after that, to like see the tables, to write the SQL queries, we need h2 console. Okay, so for h2 database, the h2 console is already there, but it is not enabled by default, so we need to enable it. And to enable it, we will use this property and make it as a true. Okay, once you do all of this, your Spring Boot application will get connected to the h2 database. And how we are accessing it? To access it, you just need to use localhost 8080 h2 console. Okay, and then you have to provide all the details whatever you have mentioned in your application.properties file. Okay, so this way you will able to create your Spring Boot application and connect to the h2 database. I hope everything is clear. If you have any questions on this, please mention in the comment section. If you like the video, please share with your friends and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you.